Good morning, class. So I finally have the information for the 3M encoder. And in your address bar, you want this information here, which you will be able to copy and paste from the announcement I'm going to provide. And once you click that, a box is going to pop up and it's going to ask for your username and your password. So the username is capital letters RAS, and then number 0, and number 1. So your password is going to be, again, capital letters AHIMA, the number symbol, or the hashtag, and then the number 3, the number 5. Click OK. And the box will look different if you're using some other browser like Firefox. So this is the box that pops up for your encoder. You can select male, female, or undetermined. You want to put in an age. If you don't know an age, just guess. If it says child, then put something below 18. If it says adult, you don't know the age, then put something over the age of 18. This information here does not need to be changed. You're not doing inpatient. You can leave it on general hospital. There's no other choice. And then over here under product, on the right-hand side, you want to choose what product you want to utilize. You want to use just the code finder, which I believe gives us just the diagnosis codes, or you can use HCPCS CPT code finder. Okay, it just says code HCPCS CPT, and that's what I want to utilize. Okay, so let's just go from the very beginning, add diagnosis. So we've got epistaxis. E-P. So epistaxis control. All right. So did we do packing only or did we do cautery silver nitrate? Well, I think we did packing only, and this is from last week's live lecture code. Okay, it says you're being redirected to the CPT coding path. Would you like to use epistaxis control? I'm going to say no, just because I want to go with control itself, and I know that that's the key word that needs to be utilized. You can try the other way and see which path it takes you, but since you guys already have the code, then we know that we're trying to get to 30903. So control. We have a nosebleed, epistaxis. We know it's not hemorrhaging. Our question didn't say anything about an endoscopy, but if you hover over each one, it gives you what the next choices will be. So that kind of helps you to see which way you want to go. If you hover over a nasal endoscopy, then stereotactic computer-assisted volumetric procedure. No, none of this was taking place to get our code last week for live lecture. Under other unspecified, it actually says there, cauterization, electrocoagulation, and packing, in parentheses, excision of nasal mucosa, ligation of arteries, packing, placement of nasal clamp, other method unspecified. I'm going to go with other unspecified because I like the choices that are next. And there we go. It just took a second. So now the choices are, like we read before when we were hovering, and we want to go with the very top one because I know that there was packing, and I know that we have down here packing with a balloon. There was no balloon being utilized, so we're going to go with this one, and I believe it said anterior on your homework. Limited cautery and or packing. Complex, extensive cautery and or packing. I don't remember off the top of my head if it said simple or complex, but because there was packing, I'm going to go with the complex and see what I come up with here. And if you hover over each one, it tells you the code up here under unilateral 30903 along with a nice ICD-10 PCS code. Bilateral, it gives you a different answer or a different question. It says single code with a modifier 50 or a double code. Well, we're going to go with the single code modifier 50. And since I don't have the question in front of me, I wasn't sure, so I know the correct answer is 30903, but you can play around with this and see where you go. So like if we go back and You just hit your back button to go backwards, and let's try packing with a balloon and see what we get. So anterior, posterior, cauterization and packing, posterior. I went with anterior before, but I want to see where this cauterization and packing takes me. So anterior, and simple goes with unilateral, bilateral. Gives us a whole different code. And since we already know the correct code is 30903, I'm going to go back. I want to try that complex and see what I get. Unilateral is 30903. So we could have got to 30903 either way. And that's very confusing when you're using the encoder, because if you don't know the code ahead of time and you're actually trying to find the code, then you're stuck with the question, well, how do I know which path is correct? And that's the tricky part about the 3M encoder. And I'm a big fan of the 3M encoder, and I love the 3M encoder. I think it is one of the best products out on the market. But unfortunately, we don't always know the code, and we're trying to find a code. So I'm going to pull up our PowerPoint from Module 1 just so we can take a look at it and see just exactly what it says. So bear with me a second. Sometimes referring to your book when you get on those pathways and you get confused, then just pull your book, because it's actually easier to utilize the book, and you get an answer quicker, in my opinion. And the book is what you would use to help you when you are audited and somebody wants to know why you chose what you chose. Okay, so a patient is seen for a nosebleed, both nares, so that's bilateral, received a complex anterior packing. So actually looking at this now, I have more information than when I was trying to guess. And let me pull back up my encoder. So we have a bilateral, let me go back. Okay, so we want to go with other. Cauterization, packing, and I believe it said, let me pull it back up, nosebleed, both nares, complex anterior. So anterior, complex, bilateral because it was both nares, and we want to use the modifier, which was given. So 30903-50. But if you have limited information, that's a good example to show you what I did before. I was kind of flailing all over the place and trying to figure out which way was the best path to go. And because I didn't have the question pulled up, I didn't know all the information. So you got to go with the best path with the information that you are given. And anterior, complex, bilateral, 30903. And then you can hit continue. And there's your codes. So this is your encoder. And if we wanted to add a diagnosis, so let's say, I'm going to start with bleeding. Bleeding. And no, you do not need diagnosis for this class. I just need your CPT or HCPCS or modifier. So other, because there was no vascular defect. It says blood and or blood forming organ disease and or immune mechanism disorder with blah, blah, blah. No, we do not wish to code. There was no treatment for anemia, no blood transfusion. Oh, well, that went a whole different path than where I was trying to go. So let's go back. And let me try epistaxis, since bleeding of the nose wasn't a choice. Epistaxis. Okay, we don't have any of this information for anticoagulant, hereditary, viscous menstruation, so I'm going to go with unspecified. And you could go right into your procedure from your diagnosis if you wanted to. We want no procedure because we already did it. And here is your ICD-10 diagnosis code. And it would be R04.0. And you hit continue. Your encoder does not give you the point that is actually necessary. So make sure you're putting in your points. But here are your three codes: your ICD-10 diagnosis code, your ICD-10 PCS code, and your CPT code. And if you hover over each one, you're able to click on the code book or the coding clinic, and down here you can click on your code book, your CPT assistant, coder's desk reference for procedures by Optum, HCPCS codes, or anesthesia crosswalk. So your code book is actually, the encoder is very neat, and you can then go to your next patient. You also have your reference books up here. If you wanted to open a reference book, let's say you weren't sure what body part was being worked on, then you could pull open your Elsevier anatomy plates, and you can look at different body systems, actual pictures of different body systems of your choice. And they gave you these nice little pictures that show you where things are located, right lobe, left lobe. Some of them can be very detailed, the gallbladder. These are really neat plates, Elsevier plates. And you go hit your back arrow at the top, and you can go back and you can look at a different body system, like the brain and spinal cord. So when you get into some of your back procedures, then you actually know where the lumbar is located, the thoracic, the sacral, and the cervical. So back arrow again, back arrow, and then you go back out here to the main. So you have Dorland's Medical Dictionary. You also have your CPT assistant, your CPT terminology, HCPCS book, for when we get into HCPCS, Faye Brown's coding handbook for some of you that really get into the Faye Brown book. There are all kinds of links here that you can click on. Just explore around. Take some time and explore around and see what you come up with. And then let me get out of here. So this is your encoder. Go in, put in a different age. Just try some diagnosis on your own. Work through your homework if you want to. For those that want to utilize the encoder for your homework, you may. You go right ahead. I would just double check the book to make sure, because as you saw, you can go down multiple different paths and get different answers. And just because you get one path doesn't mean that is the correct answer. So be very careful with that. Your book is more precise than the encoder, even with diagnosis. So be very careful. Thank you.